if you want to distinguish yourself in your community, you want to be seen as an expert, and you want to establish really good relationships with a great number of people who will come to you at some point, then I think content is really a key part of that. Advertising just won't do it. It's just too annoying and too transactional. It's not the way we consume information anymore.
Welcome back, fitness friends. This is the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series, and this is your host, Eric Malzone. And this is a quick request to hit pause and go to helpmypodcast.com and just fill out 1 minute, quick survey. I think it's 6 questions, and all I want, I'm not selling anything. I just want to find out what you value in this show. So helpmypodcast.com. It'll really be extremely valuable to me and what we do here to offer more value, finding out more about you, what you are looking for, what you find helpful, and we'll double down on that in 2020. So it would be extremely helpful for everybody if you go to helpmypodcast.com and fill out the survey. Greatly appreciated. So this is episode number 166. This is an interview with Jay Croft. He is the founder of primefitcontent.com. And Jay's a very talented guy. Great, as you can tell through the interview, he's a very well-spoken, excellent writer, and he's got a great story to tell. And what he does now is he helps fitness professionals reach the 50 over market. And we came to a number here during the show. It's a market of about 100 million in North America, 100 million people that are being underserved by fitness professionals. If that doesn't smell like opportunity to you, then I don't know what to tell you. You know, I just don't. It's a huge market. It's a great market. And I've said it many times on this show before. It's something that I think people should very, very much consider going after and adapting your business to them. So not only does he talk about that, he also talks about, you know, what it is to create great content on an ongoing content marketing strategy and how valuable and vital it is to the fitness profession to have one. It's how you build trust. It's how you gain clients in the long term. It's how you build retention. It's all of these things. It's core. And if you're not doing it, reconsider or hire someone like Jay. That's my message. primefitcontent.com and Jay Croft. So 2 sponsors, Level 5 Mentors, LEVEL, the number 5 mentors.com. If you are interested, if you are an entrepreneur and you're interested in the highest levels of freedom in your time, your money, your relationships, your purpose, and your health, then you probably align with our values, and I believe we can help you if you're stuck. So go to level5mentors.com. Go ahead and book a free consultation with me. Love to chat with you and find out more about you. Our other sponsor is certifiedcoursecreation.com. So if you have a concept for an online accredited certification and you're not sure how to bring it to market, we want to help. So why an online accredited certification? Why? Because the market's huge. People are constantly looking for CEUs, and you probably have a solid knowledge base that you need to get out there in the world, and you need to leverage yourself, and you need to get that message out. And you can stop trading time for money and have a great online product that's literally selling while you sleep. Compelling, I think, right? So certifiedcoursecreation.com, go check it out, and you can book a call there as well. Without further ado, let's get on to it. Episode number 166, Mr. Jay Croft from primefitcontent.com. We're live. Jay Croft, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Eric. Glad to be here.
Yeah, really excited to have you. And before we dive into your story and the wonderful world of content marketing, I want to ask my audience, because I know a lot of people fast forward through the initial introduction like I do with many of my podcasts. So audience, I need your help. I'm taking a survey this year to make this show better in 2020. So if you can go to helpmypodcast.com, I believe it's 5 questions. Just take 1 minute of your day, helpmypodcast.com, do the survey, give me some feedback on how we can improve this thing going into next year. I would greatly appreciate it. So that's it. That's my quick pitch. On to Jay. Jay, man, I've got to know you quite well over the past, I don't know, 6 to 9 months. And the value that you're offering to the market is outrageously good. And you have a great background. I'm not going to, I'm going to let you tell your story, kind of how you got into this, because, you know, you've got a lot of experience on your belt. So give us some background on yourself, kind of how you got to what you're doing now with Prime Fit Content.
Sure. Happy to. Thanks for having me, Eric. So my career, most of my career has been in large communications organizations, primarily in the mainstream media. I was a newspaper reporter for about 20 years, newspaper reporter and editor at newspapers across the country. And that's all I wanted to be. I wanted to be a newspaper journalist. And then when the internet and smartphones came along, that took a really big hit on the newspaper industry. And like most of my colleagues, I had to find a new way to make a living about 10 or 12 years ago. And so I sort of stumbled into corporate communications and was fortunate to work for some very large, powerful corporations that are based here in Atlanta, and learned a lot from them and met some really smart people, and realized ultimately after a few years that that was not the situation that I wanted to be in. I like creative situations, and I like writing, and I like talking to people, and I like sharing their stories in ways that help someone grow their business in positive ways. And that's largely what drew me to journalism many years ago. And then I wanted to get back to that. So I was at a bit of a crisis, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm 56 now, and this crisis came around shortly after I turned 50, when I realized that I could no longer do Fortune 500 marketing and communications because it was just not a good place for me. And I needed something more creative and more rewarding to me. And so I thought about the things that are important to me and the topics that I read about and would enjoy writing about anyway. I came up with a few categories, and I pursued work as a writer and journalist and content marketer in those categories. And one of them was fitness. I'm not a trainer, but I've been working out on my whole adult life. It's second nature to me now. It's important to me, always has been, and I'm interested in it. So along the same time, like I said, I just turned 50, and you're a few years away from that, Eric, and you're going to find out.
Let's keep it to you, Jay.
I'm sorry. My story. Well, shortly after I turned 50, I noticed that I was no longer the target of marketing campaigns and pop culture and entertainment. The demographic that everybody wants is about 18 to about 42 or so, and 45 maybe. And I'd always been in that age group, but then suddenly I got to be about 50, and I noticed, man, all the marketing was not relevant to me at all, and even less so to anyone older than me. Our culture is youth obsessed, as you know, and our industry, the fitness industry, is youth obsessed. It's all about being young and hot and having six-pack abs and the girls looking good in their booty shorts and all of that. And that's great. I have no problem with any of that. But there needs to be more. I just felt like the fitness industry was not speaking to the 80 million baby boomers in this country alone, which I am one. And they were missing a huge opportunity. And so I thought, well, that's a way I can meld what I do, communications and content, to serve the fitness industry and the fitness consumer as well. Looked into it, found out that nobody's really doing it. And I think it's really important. You and I both know a lot of trainers who are trying to help people live their best lives. And I want to help those trainers and gym owners and studio owners reach more people through my content that will distinguish those gyms and studios and trainers in their communities. It tells the community, hey, I'm here. I care about you. I want to help you enjoy your best life, whatever that is for you. So that's kind of how I got into it. It's why it's important to me. It's very personal to me and the people I care about, and it gives me a chance to I hope do some good in the world, help people, help others.
Yeah, I think so. And that story is compelling, and if people even don't pick up on that messaging, the number of 80 million should get people's attention alone, right?
Yes, it should.
That market is tremendous. And, having worked with the, 50, 55 plus, out of all the coaches, all the classes that I've coached or people I've trained, I've always enjoyed that market the most.
Yeah.
Because it's, there's just no BS. It's like, it's so, you can do so much good, right? By just helping someone improve the quality of their life. And you don't get those, no one's there is, I mean, there are a percentage of all population, but they're not there to get like optimal fitness or,
Right.
8% body fat. They just want to feel better.
Yeah.
Continue to stay active.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you wrote a nice little ebook on kind of like what the 7, is it 7?
7. Yeah.
Yeah. Like go over that. Like what are the 7 reasons that?
Sure. So I noticed over the first year or so that I was writing content for Fitness Over 50 market, I pretty quickly noticed that there were about 7 categories that almost every person I met who had a really powerful story about why they wanted to either get fit or stay fit at this stage in life kind of fit into one of about 7 categories. Now you could quibble and say 6 or 8 or whatever, but I picked 7, and they're very compelling and they're very interesting. And to me, as a writer, as a storyteller, I'm more compelled by people in those 7 categories than I might be by some young guy who just wants to look good in a tight t-shirt. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not terribly interesting to me as a writer, and it's not terribly lucrative to gym owners and trainers for a number of reasons that we can get into later. So some of the reasons that I found people over 50 want to get fit or stay fit, things like they want to be able to enjoy their grandchildren. A lot of people at this stage in life, they have been working really hard their whole lives. And now they're approaching retirement and their kids are grown and they're starting to have grandkids, but they haven't been active. They were busy raising kids and paying off the mortgage and going to work every day. And suddenly they wake up one day and maybe they're overweight or they're pre-diabetic or they've been smoking or they have chronic back pain, what have you. Very common things. And they want to get down on the floor and play with the baby and they can't. So a lot of them will go to a gym and a trainer and say just that. Help me. I don't want to be the boring Nana. I don't want to be the pop that nobody wants to play with, right? I want to enjoy my grandchildren. Help me do that. That's one. Another is their sports. I have a lot of friends who've played sports or golf their whole lives or any number of other sports, but just happen to be a couple men that I know really well. They're not suddenly going to stop wanting to play golf and tennis because their age changes. Oh, I'm 52. I guess I'll give up this thing that I really love. Why? They don't want to. They want to still be competitive. They want to still beat their brother-in-law's ass. They want to still be able to enjoy the day golfing without getting sore and winded, and they want to keep their strength on their drive. Right. So that's another really good reason. And travel. When you think about it, let's say you're 25 and you're going to Europe, you don't worry about whether you're strong enough and fit enough to go on the tours and to climb up the steps and to stand in the lines and to lug around the luggage and to get lost, while you're trying to find your hotel or whatever typical travel, let alone something that's really more demanding, like a lot of bucket list trips tend to be. But I've met a lot of people over 50, 60, 70 who have always enjoyed traveling. And they notice that their buddies that they're going traveling with are really boring because they can't leave the hotel room. Their back hurts or they're tired or they don't think that they can climb those famous steps at the top of the cathedral or whatever, and they don't want to be like that. So they go to the gym or the trainer or the studio and say exactly that. So it's not so much, I want to go to the gym so I can go to the gym, or I want to be fit so I can be fit. It's like, I want you to help me live the life that I want to live, the life that I have lived and want to continue to live. I want my autonomy. I want my health. I don't want to fall. And I don't want to be a burden on anybody. That's really compelling. That's rich stuff. And it doesn't go away. So you get somebody at 50, 60, 70 years old with those goals. That's a long-term client. That's a lot of money for a trainer or a gym or a studio.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are like I could go on about the other 7, all 7, but you get the point. They're really compelling reasons.
Yeah, very compelling. And it's interesting to me because if I asked 21-year-old Eric what 43-year-old Eric would look like, I'd be like, oh, he's done. He's old.
Really?
Right?
Yeah.
Probably overweight. I'm 43. I feel better than I did at 25. And people are now living, you talk about this magical retirement age, which is, going the way of the buffalo, but it's
Yeah, it
like,
is.
60, 65, back, 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, that was like, okay, you retire, you got about 10 more years. And now people are looking at 30, right? Yeah. Anecdotally, this is interesting, is that the mountain that I ski at every winter, Whitefish, used to have this deal was once you hit 70, you got free season pass, right?
They upped that.
They got rid of it because there was too many active 70 plus people skiing. Yeah. So they had, now it's like 150 for the year. Like it's still ridiculously cheap, but they're like, like we can't sustain that. It's the number's too big. And that's like, people look at 80 million and they're like, okay, well, that's a lot. But just from that one small calculation, this isn't a big town. We're talking about 7,000 people, right? That they had to make an investment like that. So people are it's a very active crowd. They see that like, hey, the days are going way out now. 90s, 100s.
Yeah.
Right. It's just the way it is.
We're living longer.
Mm-hmm.
For a number of reasons for that. We don't smoke as much as we used to. We don't drink as much as we used to. Fitness became a part of the everyday culture for common, ordinary, everyday folks in the 70s and 80s. All of that's different than when our parents grew up. When a lot of people smoked, a lot of people drank a lot, and fitness was like, what's that? Something you watched on the Olympics every 4 years on TV. It wasn't a part of everyday life for millions of Americans like it is now. So we live longer, and this baby boom generation, the 80 million that we're talking about, they've always run the world. Really, it's the biggest consumer market in the history of the planet. So to ignore that market, any industry is doing that at its own peril. To pursue that market is smart. Whatever your fitness goal is, if you're in this generation, if you're over 50, 55 and up, you don't want to just quit living. You're not just going to stop. You want to keep doing it. And that skiing example that you gave is really powerful for two reasons. One, because it's typical of all kinds of athletic events and lifestyle things that people enjoy doing. And the other, because it's not so typical in that it's very expensive. Skiing is an expensive hobby or sport or what have you. It's not something that everybody can just do all the time. It's something you have to save for, and that's a big deal, which again speaks to the attractiveness of the baby boomer market, the over 50 market. I want to say one thing I keep saying baby boomer. That's just sort of an easy conversational way to talk about it. It's really more than the baby boomers. The baby boomer generation was 1946 to 1964. And there are about 80 million of those people in the United States. But a lot of people over 50 are not baby boomers. They're either Gen Xers coming up after us, baby boomers, or they're whatever they were called before baby boomers. I don't know if that generation had a name, but my mother, for instance, is not a baby boomer, but she's still a vibrant, active person with money to spend on fitness. So when you add in all of that, it's more like 100 million. Yeah.
Big numbers. And what's interesting, and I don't want to belabor the skiing thing, but every year, another thing that's fascinating about this example is that there's a vertical like competition every year. Like how many vertical feet can you ski? Right. And you can see people have season passes, like who's on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Top 5 are all in their 70s. Granted, they have more time than most people.
Yeah.
But still, like, what does that say? Like they're skiing the most out of everybody. So it's really interesting. And I think we've proven a good point. I think people should focus on it. If I was going to go back and open a gym today, first of all, I'd probably be facing divorce, but I would go to the 50 plus. I would just focus on that. And
I would too.
Be super happy about it because great clients refer, loyal, have money to pay for the right service, and just the metrics that you need to hit to make them happy, and is a lot easier than trying to get someone down to 8% body fat. That's challenging.
That's hard.
Right? It's hard.
Yeah, that's hard.
So yeah, it's awesome. So let's talk about content marketing, right?
Sure.
Can we define it?
Yeah, sure. There's a number of definitions about it. And, just basically it means providing useful and engaging and relevant information to your target audience that isn't a hard sell, that provides some kind of value and then helps you establish a relationship with people who could become your clients at some point. That's a pretty good definition of it, I think. It is not advertising. Advertising is one shot to you. Come and give me your money and I'll give you a 20% discount, or I'll give you a 2-for-1 special and this expires next Tuesday or whatever. It's a hard sell. And that's important. Maybe you should be doing that at your gym or studio or in your training business. It's not an either or. But content is a conversation that you have with your prospects and with your clients as well. That shows that you value them. It's a way to provide interesting conversation material and to show that you appreciate them for more than just a quick buck, right? It's like, I think of it as like, if you have an old friend that you haven't heard from for several years and he only calls you when he needs a favor or he needs $500 or something, everything's very transactional. Nobody likes that. But if you've got someone who you have a steady relationship with and you engage each other on a regular basis and there's no, forgive me, quid pro quo, it's just a relationship, then that's good. I'll give you an example. You think about email. We all get tons of email, and gyms and trainers and studios need to be sending email to their prospects at least 3 times a week. And when I tell people this, a number of them say, I don't want to be that guy who bombards people and is annoying with too many emails. And I say, give them good stuff and you won't be annoying them. They'll be looking forward to it. They'll be happy to see, hey, there's another email from Eric. I always like what he sends me. If you send them an endless barrage of how great you are and all the certifications you have and what your personal best is at the bench press and how great you are at, sumo squats instead of regular squats and blah, 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 then yeah, I'm going to unsubscribe from that right away. So, it's important that your content be good and engaging and not a hard sell. It's important that it be consistent and valuable. And that's just the approach. It's a more low-key, long-term establishment of a relationship instead of a quick hit sale.
Yeah. And it's I think it's the foundation, besides having a great product and service, which is number one, right? I think it's the foundation of any great marketing strategy for a business. You got to have, because if you're paying for ads, this is just, one man's opinion, but it's probably true. If you're paying for ads, only X amount is going to convert right up front for whatever offer you have, right?
Yeah.
The gold is in the next 1 to 12 months where you're following up with content marketing, building the trust, right? That's, I've seen, Nicole Spencer was on the show not too long ago. Brilliant, really good content marketer. She started her whole business, which is quite successful now, off a list of 30 people, right? She just started delivering these people really good content, heartfelt, to the point, connecting, right? Authentic, honest, all of those key things that make great content marketing. Then she grew, right? And people are like, well, I don't have a list. I'm like, sure you do. You can compile a list of 30 people. I guarantee anybody listening right now, you can compile a list of 30 emails and start your content marketing, right?
That's right.
That's it. And you just start doing it. And I look at it like aerobic training. One of my initial coaches was James Fitzgerald. He's like, true aerobic training is sustainable and repeatable.
Okay.
Right. So if your content marketing is sustainable, which means like if you can truly only get to your email and send one out once a week, right? That's all you can do. You're so limited on time. That's great. Do it once a week, but do it for 12 months.
Yeah, that's right.
That's way better than nothing because you're constantly in their mind, subconscious or consciously, right?
Yes, all that is true and very important. And there's another thing that I think is perhaps not consciously realized on everyone's part, but I think is just as important. if you're not consistent with it, then it shows that you don't take it seriously and you don't care about it. And therefore, your audience isn't going to take it seriously, and your audience isn't going to care about it. They're going to know it's something that you just got to check off your to-do list. Fine, here's another bullshit email, or here's another stupid blog post. Fine, leave me alone now. And then you don't do it for 3 weeks. And before you know it, a year has gone by. And it's just clear to the people you're trying to reach that you're really not trying to reach them, and that you really don't care. And I'll tell you, a lesson about this. It might come from my newspaper background, right? Where we lived on deadlines. Deadlines are everything, and it has to get done right now, because the newspaper has to be on all the doorsteps at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever it is. So no, you don't get to do it tomorrow. I mean, you can try it again tomorrow and you write another article or create another ad or something, but you have to do it right now, because that's the commitment you made to your audience, that we will give you the news every morning. When I went to a corporate job, my job was to create the company magazine they told me on a quarterly basis. And I came in and quickly found out that they weren't producing it on a quarterly basis. They were kind of just doing it whenever. And I said, no, we got to bring some rigor to this. We have to do it quarterly. Well, why? It doesn't matter. We'll just do it whenever we do it. No one cares. I said, that's right. Then no one cares. You're spending a lot of money to send this information to all of your many, many thousands of employees, presumably for some reason, right? There's some business reason why you have decided that it's important to communicate with your employees. If you want them to read that information and take it seriously and give it credibility, then they have to know that it means something to you. And if you just kind of crap it out once every 3 months or 5 months or 7 months or whenever the heck we feel like it, yeah, come on, that's just not going to work. If you don't take your work seriously, then your audience won't take it seriously either. So that's my preaching about deadlines, man. They matter.
Yeah, they matter a lot. I mean, deadlines get shit done. That's it.
Yeah.
For a very long time, I took a little hiatus, but I'm back to it now with my email list, but 2 week minimum, 2 a week minimum.
Yeah.
That was it. As long as you hit it on Monday and Wednesday, if you want to throw an extra one in there, that's great. But it's got to be minimum. You got to commit to it. It's got to be the thing that you do, and it will pay off. And that's the thing, is like, people are like, we'll try it for maybe this is a good, segue into like, what can people expect? Right. From an ROI perspective, is people were like, well, I tried it for, 2 weeks and I didn't, nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, unfortunately we have this, this mentality about a lot of things, that we want instant results in fitness, but in all sorts of things. And, and then think about it in fitness. How many 21-day transformations are we going to have? And how many new body by 6 weeks, and the little black dress in time for your sorority party or whatever? Is that fitness? I don't know. Is it? I mean, it's one thing to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 months. It's another to live a healthy lifestyle for the rest of your life. So I'm a little, I think it's interesting the way everybody wants something right now and prove it right away. That's what a 2-for-1 coupon is for. Put a 2-for-1 coupon in your local community newspaper, or in a flyer, or in a direct mailer to everyone in your zip codes, or what have you. And then you can tell exactly how many people use that, because they walk in and they show you, they give you the coupon, and then precisely what your ROI is. That's advertising. That has a place in what you're doing, but that's not what we're talking about. So the return on your investment that you're looking for in content it's a little more nuanced than that. The return on investment that you're going to get is goodwill. You're going to get identity, distinction in your community. People are going to know that, oh, that's Eric. He likes everybody to come to his gym, not just 25-year-olds, or not just teenagers, or not just old people. But you distinguish yourself in your community by your content. And if you want a certain type of person to come to your gym, then that's the kind of person you put in your content, and that's the kind of person you pursue in your with your content marketing. And the payoff is, like I said, in goodwill and in distinguishing yourself in your community and in establishing yourself as an expert on whatever your niche might be. Maybe your niche is helping teenage athletes get in the maximize their potential so they can get a scholarship, right? Or maybe your niche is helping young mothers lose their baby weight. Or maybe your niche is helping people over 50 get fit or stay fit so they can be clients of yours for the next 20 or 30 years. And the way you do that, the way you put your own story forth is through content. And if you're not out there telling your story, then they'll find someone who is telling their story, because that's what's happening in the world right now. If you don't get it, quote air quotes, get it, your competition gets it. You bet they do. So if you want to distinguish yourself in your community, you want to be seen as an expert, and you want to establish really good relationships with a great number of people who will come to you at some point, then I think content is really a key part of that. Advertising just won't do it. It's just too annoying and too transactional. It's not the way we consume information anymore.
Yeah. And the last statistics I read is that we get hit with 3,000 ads per day.
Constantly.
Per day.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, it's time to try, something that's a little bit more proven, which is building relationships.
Yeah.
You talk about storytelling, and another anecdote was we had our first workshop at Level 5 Mentors a couple of weeks ago in a house up in British Columbia. And it was, everyone started with their story the first day. Everyone got around, they told their story, and we heard some really powerful stories. And then the second day we got back to, okay, well, we did stories yesterday. Let's talk about how important storytelling is. And I asked everyone around the room, like, hey, what do you remember about Art? Right? And like, well, Art at one point had $44 in his account. Right? I'm like, well, what do you guys remember about Scott and Katie? Like, well, Scott and Katie had the power turned off at their gym, and they had to go, run to the store and get, propane powered heaters so they can continue until the power thing got figured out. Right. And like, what do you guys remember about Ken? Well, Ken battled cancer and won. Right. Yeah. No one remembered like how successful that person was at the time, or how great they were at XYZ or whatever it was. They remembered that pivotal point where they're like, ooh, that struck me here, right in my heart, in my gut. And they'll never forget that. I will never forget any of those stories. I will forget everything else about what their business is doing, all of that. Storytelling is incredibly powerful, and people are a little scared to share their stories sometimes, right? Yes. But no, it's probably your greatest marketing tool.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. Your personal story and your business story, sometimes they're the same thing. It's what you have. No one else has Eric's story. Eric is the only one with Eric's story, and I'm the only one with mine. And we all have more than one, of course. So, we can apply the storytelling skills to the situation at hand. With trainers in particular, I find that they confuse who's the hero of the story. If a prospect walks into your gym, the prospect is the hero. It's not the trainer. There's a lot of trainers and gym owners who will tell you how, everything you ever could possibly want to know about them to convince you to give your business to them. I'm going to be drawn to the one who realizes that it's my story and they're there to help me. And the example I often use is, you think about Star Wars, right? We've all seen Star Wars. And the hero of Star Wars is very clearly Luke Skywalker, the classic hero's journey that we're all familiar with. Or maybe we're not, but we are, whether we realize it or not. The classic hero's journey is the basis for most stories in Western culture. And it's Luke's story. Part of the hero's journey is that there is a helper. There's someone there to help the person become the hero. And that person is Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Who teaches Luke the ways of the Force and welcomes him into the world of adulthood and being a man and being a hero and saving the galaxy and all that stuff. So the trainer and the gym owner is not the hero of the story. It's the prospect or the client that's the hero of the story. And your role is to help the person. You're the Obi-Wan Kenobi to their Luke Skywalker. So if you can make that shift, that understand that the story is not mine, it's theirs, then I think that's something to really be aware of. And you're sharing your story so that maybe they'll share theirs too. And you'll understand why they want to lose that 30 pounds. It's not just because they want to lose 30 pounds. Maybe it's because, they always felt like the fat, ugly girl in school, and they still do, even though they're successful and happy, right? Or any number of reasons that help you as the trainer really understand their motivation and their point of view to do your job to help them get where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's mindset is around content. I mean, you mentioned people who don't want to be salesy. They don't want to be that person who's annoying in their inbox, right? Well, first of all, that's why services like yours exist. You can get someone who's a professional content marketer at primefitcontent.com and have someone like you actually do it for you at a very, at a high value point.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's always helped me is my sister's a great example. My sister runs one of the biggest women's ministries on the central coast of California, right? Okay. And she writes love letters. They're called love letters. She writes them to her list of women. And what she does is she writes it as if she's writing, she thinks of one specific person in her ministry, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she writes to that person in a caring tone, but something that person needs to know and understand, right?
Yeah.
And I find if you can take that approach, that helps me too. Is I think about one person that I want to write to, and how I want to bestow value on and possibly a lesson or something that I can, a coaching moment, right? Mm-hmm. And I write from that perspective, and then it just feels right. It just feels good. And it's a lot easier when you look at it from that perspective. And that's me, right? I like to pick someone, an avatar, and be like, okay, I'm going to write to this person today.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Is that a solid, what else do you use to help?
Oh, that's a great hack. I'm so glad that you brought that up. The way I often do it is I'll say to someone, tell me like you would tell a 6-year-old, or tell me like you would tell your mother or your neighbor or your friend from college. Smart, well-intentioned people who care about you, but who don't want to know every freaking little detail, right? They don't want the encyclopedic version. They just want to know, how are you and what's new with your situation, whatever it might be. So, think of it like that. You're communicating to that person what you think they might need to know, instead of just talking until you hope that something useful comes out, right? That's a really good hack. I think another one is to always be aware of who you're talking to and what you want them to do. You might have to adjust your approach depending on your audience. If you're a gym owner and you're having a team meeting, you might talk to all your trainers and your employees in a certain way. You might use some jargon. You might use some abbreviations. You might get rough with them a little bit if you feel like they've been slacking off or whatever. You're not going to talk that way necessarily to a group of prospects, but hopefully your key messaging is the same and your core values come through in both conversations. You want to know who you're talking to. You want to do your homework before the interview or conversation or what have you. You don't want to walk into someone and say, "Okay, so who are you? Why are you here?" You need to know that beforehand. There's no excuse now to not know where someone went to college, where their last job was, or any number of just basic information. You need to organize the priorities of the conversation so that you don't end up going all over the map. And you can even make those priorities known to the person. Hey, Eric, thanks for coming in today. I just want to remind you, I wanted you to come in and speak to me today because boom, boom, boom. Today we're going to talk about XYZ. That's great. Give someone expectations. They feel like they're in good hands. And then this might sound kind of obvious, but let people talk. You want to have a conversation with people. You don't just want to badger them with yes, no, staccato answers. You want to ask a variety of questions in a range of styles so that you get some yes, no answers when you need them. But you also let the person just wander a little bit within the boundaries that you've set up so that, you can ask some good follow-up questions and let sometimes people need to get warmed up before they can get to the good stuff. So you need to be patient with them. And I think that these principles of having good conversations really apply no matter what the situation is. I used them when I was a reporter and was interviewing people for all kinds of situations. I also have used them in corporate communications. I now use them when I'm talking to gym owners and trainers, and also when I'm talking to 80-year-old women who just, hiked across the northern Spain and the hiking trail that, the pilgrimage, I can't think of its name. People have done remarkable things. People have done ordinary things. Whatever it is, if you can just ask the right kind of questions, keep your ears open, let them speak, show a little respect. They want to share their stories with you. They really do.
What in the world of content creation, content marketing, like who inspires you? Like who are the people that you look at and like that person's doing it right?
Okay.
Is there anybody like that? I mean, I look at Seth Godin, right?
Yeah.
From an entrepreneurial standpoint, and this guy's on point. It's like he's talking to you specifically. Mm-hmm. It's all natural language. It's a very concise thought. He doesn't sell to you very often. When you do, you feel cool, you feel good about it. You're like, oh, thank God he's finally trying to sell me something, right? Like he's offering me so much value that I feel like I you know what I mean? Like that. Who is that for you?
Well, I tell you, someone that I really love in the content marketing world is a woman named Ann Handley. She is a writer and something of a content marketing guru. And she doesn't really have anything to do specifically with the fitness business. I'm just kind of a fangirl for her. She's my kind of writer and editor, and she's in content marketing, which shows me that I'm in the right spot. She wrote a really terrific book that I recommend to anyone. It's called Everybody Writes. And the idea is that nowadays we all do, because of the way we communicate now. Everybody is a writer and needs to learn how to write pretty well. It's no longer something you can just do poorly. If you've got copy on your fitness website that's full of typos or misspellings or poor grammar, why should I give you my business when there are 10 other gyms that have good copy on their websites? If you send me emails that are redundant because you're too lazy to realize that you've just sent me the same content already, I'm going to unsubscribe from you. I'm not going to give you my business. So when I say everybody writes and they need to do it pretty well, I don't mean they need to write like I do for a living. They need to understand that communications, that's how you put yourself out to the world. And we all do it in some form or fashion all the time, every day. So Ann Handley wrote this really awesome book called Everybody Writes. It's this really smart combination of Strunk and White, which a lot of you will remember from college, the definitive style guide for writing of all kind, with the internet age. And she breaks it up in really smart chapters. So if you want to write a video script, there's a chapter on how to write a video script. And if you want to write a blog post for your boss, there's a way to do that. And she shares my disdain for gobbledygook and bureaucraties and maximizing your synergies and optimizing your modalities and all that nonsense, right? She speaks like a person speaks. She writes in a no-nonsense fashion. She's a good editor. She's clear. She's concise. So much fitness writing and content is just lazy. It's just blah, 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 blah. Anyone can do that. Anyone can just open their mouth and start talking. It's on all of us to be more responsible with the communications we put out in the world. Whether you do it yourself or you have someone like me do it for you, it's still important. Yeah. So Ann Handley is my recommendation. I'm always happy to give her a boost.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I really like... I like Lululemon, believe it or not, which is, and brands like it. It's not the only one. It's just the one that came to mind, probably because I need to do a little shopping. But because I like the product, but I also like the soft approach. It's not. Or Eddie Bauer's really good at it as well. Apple's really good at it as well. They meld their product and their logo and their services into a lifestyle that is aspirational and somewhat attainable. It's not telling me to come in and buy this pair of shorts. It's not telling me to always, get new ear pads, which I obviously need. It's more, makes you feel good to be a part of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's ingenious, but it's not shady. You're happy to be a part of it instead of feeling like you got conned.
Yeah, I think Apple's a really interesting thing. And I use it all the time for an example, because out of all the options for, mobile devices, laptops, I feel like people have the strongest connection to Apple because there's a story, right? Do you, maybe you remember, it was only aired once, was that famous commercial, the Apple commercial where everyone's like...
1984?
Yes, 1984.
Yeah, I do, because I was in college, and it was, so I was old enough to remember it. And it did air once, and it was directed by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, and it was during the Super Bowl.
It was during the Super Bowl or the Olympics. Which was it?
I think it's Super Bowl. But either way, it was a major event.
Anyway, it was
a
major event. It aired once. They spent a fortune on it. They got an A-list Hollywood director to do it. The man who did Blade Runner and Alien. Right?
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful ad. And since then they have kept this level of elegance and simplicity, and the stories that they tell are stories you want to be a part of. And you can be.
Anti-establishmentarianism, like, I know that's a big word, but that's like what they kind of represent is like, we go against status quo, right? We're for artists, we're for creators, we're for people who value their individuality. Like, who doesn't want to resonate with that? Who wants to be I think I just want to be normal and status quo. That's what I want to do with my life. Like, no, people resonate with that. Right. Right. And you compare that to, the computer giant of a previous generation, which was IBM. I can't tell you one thing about IBM. I have no sense of feeling or emotion or remembering a commercial that they did 30 years ago or nothing. They just seem corporate and just
stiff and boring, and they've gone the way of the newspaper, haven't they? I mean, they're really not around anymore. But everybody knows Apple, and even to a lesser extent, Apple's chief competitor, Microsoft. Right? They've got a good story too.
They have a great story. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So let's tell everyone let's talk about your service really quick. So Prime Fit Content, you do what?
Prime Fit Content is a service that gives gyms, trainers, and fitness studios regularly delivered content about fitness over 50. It's the kind of content that you might read in a magazine. When I was starting, and I thought I wanted to go for the People magazine level, in that it's easy to read, but also fun and positive and engaging, without being silly. And so that was kind of the approach I was going for. But very quickly, a subscriber corrected me, and she said, no, it's Parade magazine. I said, yeah, good, I'll take it. That's it. Remember Parade magazine in the Sunday paper? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the tone that I'm going for. So I'm a reporter. Everything's reported. It's backed up. It's not just me pontificating. It's not my personal opinion about anything. It's a lot of personal stories tied together with subjects that are going to resonate with people who are not directly involved in them. And the idea behind all of them is that they're relevant to people over 50 who want to be fit or get fit. That's the broad umbrella. I deliver stories some stories are a little bit longer and more meaty and have more of a human element to them. Some stories are shorter and kind of bulletiny about a news development or 5 tips to do this or that. I also curate recipes, healthy recipes for people over 50, which are very popular, which really, that's something I learned about this, about doing this business, is people really appreciate good recipes and good healthy recipes. And then I give you a meme as well. A meme is, we all know, is a nice image of a scene or a celebrity or an engaging image with a quote or some word of inspiration. And those are really, really well received too. The intention is that the content is ideally used in your emails, on Facebook, and on your blogs. If you don't have those three things, that's fine. You can use the content in whichever ones you do. You can use them in whatever you want to. I have a subscriber who uses them as video scripts. She makes her own little videos using her phone and sends them out to her email list and just reads my stories. That's great. If that works for her, that's awesome. But primarily, most people use them with those three channels: email, Facebook, and blogs. And if you don't have email, Facebook, and blogs, I think you probably should. I think those are the three really effective ways to get your story out consistently to people in this audience. People over 50 are on Facebook. They read. They want to hear from you. They want to know that you're out there. They want to know that you want them. And you can't rely on one channel. You can't just send an email and forget it. You really need to hit them on at least those three. So I give you the content to do that on a consistent basis. And I try to price it low enough so that everyone can do it and get some value out of it and, earn back their investment pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. And, use a slogan for one of my first fitness endeavors. If, a year from now, you wish you started today. And I think that sums up content marketing pretty well. Like if you're not doing it now, you're going to regret it. You just got to start. You just have to. It's the world we live in now.
Sorry, but to go back to the beginning of this conversation, all I ever wanted to be was a newspaper reporter, and I made it, and I got there. And then when I was 40 years old, it all disappeared, and I had to learn something new. And the world we live in now requires that small businesses need to tell their own story, period. And if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And with this market, believe it or not, it sounds kind of funny to say it's an emerging market of 100 million people who already are living, but it is an emerging market, and the fitness industry is beginning to take note of it, and you need to get in on it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome, man. We'll leave that there. That's pretty powerful. So Jay, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is tons of great value. primefitcontent.com. And you're all over social media too. People can find you on Facebook, and you also have a Facebook group.
I do. Join my Facebook group. It's free, and there's not a lot of solicitation on there, and would love to have you. It's a great place to talk about business, the fitness business more broadly than just content. And yeah, check me out at primefitcontent.com. Download my ebook. Take a look at what we're doing. And thanks for having me here. It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Croft. Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. It's your host, Eric Malzone, and I have a quick favor to ask. Actually, 3 favors. So, number 1, if you're a fan of our show, I ask you to do something that takes under 3 minutes. Go to iTunes, please, and subscribe to our show. Please, please, please. It means so much to us. It's so important. And then give us a favorable review. We would really, really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much it means and helps us out. So I know it takes 2 minutes of your day, and it means a lot to us. So please do that. Number 2, go to our YouTube channel, our Fitness Marketing Alliance, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Number 3, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've released, share it on social. That's huge. That's a big deal for us. And we put a lot of work into these episodes, trying to give you great, actionable content for the fitness industry. So that would mean a lot. And that's it. So we have some big plans coming up for this show. I'll be talking about that in the next couple episodes. But thank you so much for listening. It means so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from everybody. Eric, ERIC, at fitnessmarketingalliance.com.